So love is the answer. Yes? So we know we're supposed to love one another and express love and be love and give love and receive love. But we also have to remember that there's one source of all that love. So for all that, there's platonic love, there's familial love, there's romantic love, but at the source of all the love is this one love. And that love arises from a presence which I call God. But if you're uncomfortable with the word God, please feel free to translate in your mind with life, universe, spirit. Whatever the word is, the word can't contain what this presence is, and that this presence is in, through, and as all creation. It is infinite. There is no place where it's not, because that would make it finite. It would stop somewhere and say it's not there. It is everywhere. It is in, through, and as every star, every galaxies upon galaxies, the billions of stars, the grains of sand, every atom and cell of that which we are. We are swimming in this presence of God all of the time. It is impossible to be outside of it, and it is love itself. And so it is this love that fuels our life. This love is what I believe called us all here tonight. Even if it is just for this one moment, we were all called here by this power and this presence that's seeking to know itself and to feel itself anew in each of our hearts. We are here because we want to know our oneness and union in that love. And we do that by loving this presence, by loving God with our whole heart, body, mind, and soul. But I wonder if sometimes we feel embarrassed. I know sometimes I have to talk about how much we love God. I don't think any one of us would be here if we didn't have that feeling of adoration for this thing that which is greater than us. It includes us, but is so much greater. And yet, are we willing to share in that naked vulnerability? I love God with my whole heart and being. I want to do everything for God. I want to be in relationship with other people in God. I want to do my work in God. I'm infused with God. And sometimes we don't want to say it because we're afraid how other people will interpret us and translate what that means to them. It may mean something different to them than it means to us. God has many meanings. So we hide. We have all sorts of reasons why we may hide in embarrassment about our love for God. And yet, that love is what we want more than anything else in the world, to know our oneness and union in that love. So tonight I want to talk a little bit about, my intention for the talk tonight is just to sort of share what the vision is for this beginning community that will be here for thousands of years. and a little bit about myself so you can know a little bit about me. I think we have had experience of this presence, and for every one of us it's going to be different. And we may have had many different experiences, but there may be one that defined our spiritual journey. For me, it was when I was a child. I loved the baby, Jesus Christ, as a little girl, and I loved it. I was imagining it, and as I loved it with all my heart and felt Jesus' love for me, suddenly there was this incredible light that was beyond anything we can say, and I became one with the Christ for this extraordinary moment, however long it was, and it was love beyond anything I've ever humanly experienced. I have 3 older brothers. I adored them. I adored my family, and it was nothing. Human love, as I've experienced it on this planet, is nothing compared to this vast oceanic love that is so huge, so beyond what we understand as human beings. And it was so great that as much as I loved and adored my family, it changed my life because I couldn't follow in their footsteps. I couldn't follow in the footsteps of what most people want in life, because even what the best of what this world has to offer was nothing compared to this love. So it put me on this track of, I didn't know how to get there. I was hungering to know more of it because it was so much greater than anything, and yet I didn't know how to do that. I grew up, my mother had me go to a church that was fairly liberal. She just wanted us to learn values. She was agnostic. My dad was atheist. My brothers were agnostic or atheist. And what was interesting in that is I grew up, therefore, with incredibly free thinking. I didn't grow up with any dogma or theology, so I had this love of God. I knew to keep it to myself because I wasn't, there was total shame and embarrassment within my family to share something like that. At the same time, I never even conceive that there was a devil or hell. I didn't even know that people believed in that until I was in college. So I had no fears of thinking the wrong way or doing the wrong thing. I knew I was loved, and I knew it because of direct experience. And I would try out different groups, youth groups, trying to find God. I was trying to look for it, and they would focus a lot of their study around the Bible or theology, and it just felt so small. It felt very like you have to do these things in order to get into heaven, and if you don't do them, you won't get into heaven. And I said, no, heaven's already been given. It's already given. God is love. It can't be anything other than love. It does not judge. The conditional love is not, that's a human projection we put on this presence. This love can't help but love all of the time. There's nothing we could ever do, say, think, or act that will put us outside of that love. If Julian were to murder somebody, I would be devastated, I'd be horrified, I'd be upset, but I would never stop loving him. It would be impossible for me to stop loving him. The presence of God cannot help but love its creation all of the time. We are swimming in this love. We do not need to jump through hoops to get the love. The love has already been given, all the love of the universe. So what blocks us is our own blocks of how things should be, of how we think we need to be to deserve this love. And so we do the process. What I've learned is we have to commit to a path, to do the spiritual work, to begin to take the layers away. We're not adding on, we're accepting that which has already been given by letting go. So what I see for this community is that we are here to love God with our whole heart, soul, and being, our body, our mind, every aspect of our being, to love this presence, to wake up to it, and to support one another in waking up to it. Because it is from that place we find everything that we're looking for, just as in the reading. That when we continue to awaken to this love, everything else is there. Everything else moves into alignment. But one of the other things I've noticed being on this journey, especially as an adult, we call it the postmodern world. In the postmodern spiritual world, there are many paths to God. There are many tools to wake up to God. Michael Murphy, he's one of the founders of Esalen Institute. I don't know if you're aware of that in Big Sur. They have many types of every type of spiritual practice. And in 1974, he started cataloging all these transformative practices that people were using. At 10,000, he got worn out and stopped. That was in 1974, so it's been 40 years. We have like hundreds of thousands of techniques to open ourselves up to God, to open ourselves up in this transformational process. And so what happens is we have a lot of people who are trying a lot of different things, and including me. And so what I learned from one of my teachers, Paramahansa Yogananda, was he was talking about there's a mountain. And at the top of that mountain is when we know our oneness and union in God. All the paths, all the major religions lead to that top of the mountain. And all our individual paths. Everybody here in this room has a different path. Even if we have the same religious background, our path will be unique to us. But we all meet at the top of that mountain when we know our oneness and union in God, not just with our mind, but in our heart and our soul, where the walls are dissolving and dissolving, so we're open into infinity. That's where we all meet. But Yogananda made the point that so many people spend their time traveling the bottom of the mountain. Rather than picking a path and committing to it, we try this modality and this modality, and we try this modality, and God is infinite. So we can always have new experiences of God. We can always have a new, it's like being in love. It's like the relationship where you're always falling in love over and over again with a new person because we're addicted to that feeling of being in love and that new, woo, it's so fun. And that's what we can do on the spiritual path. We can have all these wonderful ways to wake up. And they're all different, and they're all exciting, but they don't actually take us any higher or deeper or wider. They just keep us sort of in the stimuli of spiritual, what I call spiritual materialism. Our journey to growth is to commit. And for everybody here, that path is going to be different. But we want to support, so we're here to love God with our whole heart, body, and mind, with all our being, and then to support each other in each of our individual paths. God is infinite, so your path is going to be different than my path. I'm here to respect your path, to honor your path, and to support you in what your path looks like, not how I think your path should be, but your path. Because God is absolutely beautiful and magnificent and unique as everyone in this room. It is impossible for God to duplicate itself. We all have our own individual thumbprints, our individual soul prints, our individual path. But we hold each other to that path. So when it gets boring or when we get stuck or in those times of celebration, we have people there to support us through the stuckness, who help us when we just want to quit because it's boring or it doesn't feel like it's going anywhere, or when we're having an joyful, amazing experience because we feel completely in God's grace. We have each other to support and to celebrate with us along the journey. I was talking to Mandy before service, and she was pointing out that a lot of ministers, or some of the ministers that she likes, but I know many ministers, have their talks on YouTube. The purpose of this community isn't so we have another avenue for someone to give talks. If you want to listen to incredibly brilliant spiritual talks, they are everywhere on the internet. The intention of this community is the community, where we are here to support each other on our path. I love, Reverend Michael calls it high-tech, low-touch. That one of the most intimate things that we can do is grow spiritually with another human being. We often feel our most naked and our most vulnerable because to truly know our oneness and union in God, we have to be naked, we have to be vulnerable. We have to let go of all those places where we hide, and we may not even know it. There were times that I was hiding and I didn't even know it, or my heart had a wall up, and it still does. We're all in journeys of opening our hearts into infinity. There's no end to our hearts and our bodies, to the infinite nature of our beingness. And so we are here to support that in one another, into that to go deeper and deeper in our heart, to find our path first and foremost, because there are so many paths today. What is my heart telling me? What is my path to commit myself to day in, day out, month by month, year by year? What is my heart guiding me to do? What is that power and that presence and that love of God, that infinite intelligence that includes all the past and all the future? It knows us better than we know ourselves. What is it guiding? What is the path it's guiding us to do? Because heaven on earth happens through us. So one of the ways I see our community doing this is inspired by Reverend Mark Anthony Lord, who's starting a model called the meta model. And it's the idea that things are rising all at the same time in spirit. So rather than the idea that somehow spirit works through the minister or the spiritual leader and sort of top down, it comes and tells people what to do, the idea is that there is just as much God in me as in you. There's no separation. We're all feeling and catching the love of God. We all know that. So when we hear it, we start finding what is mine to do with this spiritual community. So we have clipboards over there of places to give of service. Any area it could be youth, it could be stewardship if you love finances, if you want a community service, social events, what gets your heart palpitating? And as the community grows, your group can never be more than 10 people. It has to be at least 2 people, can never be 10 people. And what he calls it is outrageous care. That rather than having one group in charge of taking care of everybody, this group becomes the circle. And they might not be people you would normally be with, but called to serve in a setup, called to serve in a certain way. You come together, you pray with one another, you support each other on each other's path, you get to know each other. And so you're not only serving in that ministry, you're allowing the vision of that ministry to pour forth in your relationships with one another. And so now we have a community of people who are intimately connected on all levels of creating the community. And the idea of Wednesday night service then is for all these groups to come together and to celebrate this love in the magnified energy of multiple groups, of this intimacy multiplying. One way I experienced this was when I was at Agape, which is a spiritual community down in Los Angeles. There are thousands of people that go there. There was chairs like this that had to be put out and settled up. There are hundreds of chairs. Tom Kavinsky took it on himself to be the leader of the chair ministry. It was an amazing ministry to be a part of. For him, he was doing God's work. He created a team. They were in prayer before they set the chairs up. And as they placed every chair, they blessed every chair. And I was part of the team. We did it in silence. You have these hundreds of chairs, and every chair was given love. It was so much dedication. And then as you're cleaning up, the chairs are given away in love, put back, blessing the people who sat in those chairs. Everything was immersed in this God consciousness. So something that can be tedious, setting up hundreds of chairs, he had so many people wanting to volunteer because they were feeling the presence of God in the creation of the chair ministry. It was a place of utter beauty. We bring that when we love God and we know that God is in everything that we do, every relationship, every conversation, the hard conversations we pray before and after, every task that we have to do, every bill we have to pay, every aspect of our life is fueled with this infinite oceanic love of God. And it is a passionate love. It is a powerful love. And it is a love that's giving of itself. When we open our hearts to that and give from that place over and over, we are going to expand and deepen as we can't even begin to imagine. And that's what this community is about. That's what we're here to do, is to expand our hearts and our bodies and our minds and our souls to know God, this love, more than we've ever imagined possible. It is real. We are here for the direct experience of God. We are not here. The theology is good. I'm not saying theology is bad. But first comes the direct experience, because once we've had those direct experiences, then it guides how we perceive and interpret the world around us. When I was a kid, after having that direct experience, I could go to Bible groups. You could talk to me all you want, but I had experienced the love of God directly. There's nothing more powerful. Jesus said, worship me in spirit for a reason, and keep thy eye single for a reason. When we focus and love God and experience it directly, however that is for us, nothing can move us. Nothing can shake us. We know who we are. We know why we are here. We are here to create heaven on earth. That is why we are here on this planet, and that's why this community is being birthed. This is not my community. This is not the Centers for Spiritual Living community. This is not Livermore community. This is God's community. This community, first, foremost, and always, second to none, belongs to God. We have a structure, Centers for Spiritual Living, but the structure is to serve God. God is not here to serve the structure. I am here to serve God. God is not here to serve me. Everything is here for God. We are here for God. And that is what called me here today. And even if you're not called to serve in this community, wherever you are here tonight for a reason. Because you are remembering to remember that God has called you to be on this planet, to wake up, to be alive and in love with God all the time.